Greetings everyone, so I thought I'd do this video on Milo Yiannopoulos. I don't know how many of my regular viewers would have heard of him because I've noticed that the general age range of my audience seems to be somewhere from middle-aged to slightly older, so you may not have heard of him, although I suspect a lot of you have heard of him. He's basically a Catholic who gained a lot of attention some years back in the kind of conservative / right-wing movement. He was writing articles, he was appearing on news broadcasts, mainstream ones. He was giving talks at universities.
Christmas and Christianity are worth fighting for. Why? Because Catholics, in particular, and Christians generally, I mean, you're sort of like a slow relative, you know, like sort of. You know, you meet up with the family once a year, and little cousin Richard is in the corner. You know, it's how we like to think of Protestants. Even though there are now quite a lot of you. The disease is spreading. What's that? Well, no, look. But we still love you. We love you. You're just a bit retarded.
He was very well known. He made quite a name for himself. He got quite a big following. He was writing books as well. And then there was an event where he was essentially kind of cancelled by the right. And that was because it was found that during a podcast he was on, like a late night podcast, he basically said that he felt the age, and I can't remember what the age was, but the age of 13 maybe, or somewhere around there, for a boy to be sexually intimate with a man was about right. So just to go back a little bit and explain to you a little bit more about Milo Yiannopoulos, for those of you who haven't heard of him, he has lived a homosexual lifestyle for a long time. I don't know if he's doing it now. The last I heard, he wasn't. He basically renounced that and said he was an ex-gay. But he did live that lifestyle for a long time. And at the time of his appearance on this podcast, he was living that lifestyle. And he was trying to explain that a lot of younger boys kind of get, I don't even know how to say it, but they get kind of like an arm put around them by these older men who then introduce them into the homosexual lifestyle. And he was saying that he thinks at the age of about 13, that's okay to start doing that. I mean, it's all very wrong, obviously. But at that time, because of the lifestyle he was living, and obviously having quite a bit of knowledge on that world, that homosexual world, and how things looked, he felt that that was happening a lot anyway, and he felt that that was okay. Anyway, this whole conversation on this podcast essentially got him cancelled. He was supposed to be appearing on a conservative event, CPAC, that he never appeared on. He was basically taken off the list of people who were supposed to appear there. And I do remember that time, and I remember thinking that it was really hypocritical of this conservative movement, the right, the conservative movement, to essentially cancel him for that, given that they knew what kind of a lifestyle he was living, and they knew that he was bragging about it and joking about it and talking about it a lot. For them to be completely okay with that, but then to pick out this one thing where he made a comment that essentially made him look like he was pro-pedophilia. That's something he obviously denied. And in fact, he has himself, according to his own story, said that he was sexually abused when he was younger. So for them to do that to him, I just thought was really cowardly. To me, it's the same kind of cowardice that you'll see from certain conservatives who will rail against the transgender movement and the transitioning of children, but they have nothing whatsoever to say about marriage and abortion, particularly about marriage. They won't defend traditional marriage between a man and a woman. And in some cases, they won't even defend abortion, or they will say abortion is generally wrong, but there can be instances where it's okay. Yet they'll rail against the thing that's easy to rail against right now, and that's transgenderism. That's what I felt happened with Milo. They said nothing about his lifestyle. It didn't bother them at all. And then when it came to this subject of supposed paedophilia approval, although I don't think it really was, they cancelled him. So anyway, that was a bit of a shock to the system for him. He felt completely betrayed and turned on by people on the right, by the conservative movement. And then he kind of fizzled away. He wasn't really appearing anywhere. And then he was given a job on Church Militant. I'm sure many of you will have heard of that Catholic website that was founded by Michael Voris. He was on their program that promotes things they sell. He was with this other lady and he was on there promoting various items that they're selling.
Welcome to the Church Militant Shop. My name is Milo Yiannopoulos and I'm here with my co-host, Deborah Vaughan. How are you doing today, Deborah?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm well. I'm
Good.
happy because this is the first of our shows and we're beginning today with, well, probably the most important woman in history, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
She's certainly the most beloved, and we've got today 3 items, all in celebration, reverence, of course, of the Blessed Mother, the Virgin Mary. We're going to start with this wonderful statue, which we both own.
So he was doing that. He was also doing some reporting for them. And I remember once watching one of their clips where Michael Voris was in studio and he was talking about a story, and then he said that here is some more information from, and he said, our junior reporter Milo Yiannopoulos, and then he cut to Milo Yiannopoulos being on the scene, you know, as the reporter who's actually there, who was then going to give more information. And I remember when he said that, here's our junior reporter Milo Yiannopoulos, I just thought, wow, either Milo Yiannopoulos has really humbled himself, or this isn't going to last very long. Because this guy was very popular in the conservative movement and online, and now he's being referred to as a junior reporter on Church Militant, as well as selling various items on their sales program. And I just remember thinking, this either means that Milo Yiannopoulos has changed a lot, or his ego won't be able to take this and he won't be here for very long. And as it turned out, he wasn't there for very long. Now, Milo Yiannopoulos actually left Church Militant at a very similar time to when that whole scandal broke out about Michael Voris being involved in homosexual activity with someone else who was working there. I can't remember if it was just one other person or a few other people. I also don't know if the other person or one of the other people involved was Milo, because Milo is someone who at that time was trying to put his homosexual past behind him, as had Michael Voris. And who knows if this didn't involve the two of them, or maybe Milo wasn't involved in that at all and he just left. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But anyway, Milo Yiannopoulos left Church Militant, where, as I say, he was relegated to junior reporter because he was starting out there. He probably wasn't getting paid very much money, and this is a guy who has made millions off of his book sales and other ventures. So I was surprised he was even there. But again, as I said, I thought maybe he's just really humbled himself and he really is just trying to be a completely different person to who he was. He left Church Militant. He seemed to sort of vanish for a little while. And then he came back as Kanye West's campaign manager. So Kanye West, the musician, was supposedly going to be running for president, and Milo Yiannopoulos decided to be his campaign manager. And he also involved somebody in that called Nick Fuentes, who you may have heard of. He is also a Catholic, and this is the thing I'm coming to now with the title of the video. So they seem to get on quite well, Milo Yiannopoulos and Nicholas Fuentes, who is quite controversial himself. I mean, as is Milo. And, you know, being controversial doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot these days. You can be considered controversial by the world. You can be considered extreme, or your opinions can be considered extreme by the world. And as Peter Hitchens once put it, that can simply just mean you hold an opinion currently unfashionable. But in the case of Nick Fuentes, I mean, he had some opinions and has some opinions that are quite controversial, even to Catholics, I think. Because as far as I'm aware, unless he's changed his opinions, he's for the USA just being white. He says a lot of negative things about Jews. So anyway, this Nick Fuentes holds some controversial views, and I think he and Milo must have had a falling out at some point, because when I saw this book that was recently released by Milo Yiannopoulos, just about a month ago actually, entitled The Complete Wit and Wisdom of Nicholas J. Fuentes, I thought to myself, okay, I get this guy's a friend of yours, but you've really written this book hailing him as this amazing guy and just going through all kinds of amazing quotes that you think he has given. I was really surprised by that, But then when I looked a little bit deeper, I realized actually this isn't what it seems, and that there was some kind of a falling out between these two controversial Catholic figures, and Milo Yiannopoulos has written this book to spite Nicholas J. Fuentes, even though if you look at the Amazon description, it does say that there's a foreword in it from Nicholas Fuentes that I'm assuming there isn't, unless he thought he was giving a foreword to a book that was going to be positive about him, not realizing it wasn't going to be. And there are even some quotes from some quite well-known people below that I don't know if they're real or if they're not. I don't know if Milo Yiannopoulos would be able to put fake quotes like that in there. But then again, if he said there's a foreword from Nicholas J. Fuentes and there isn't, then he's lied about that. So why wouldn't he lie that he's received some quotes about his book, praising the book? If anyone, and I think this is going to be unlikely, has actually bought this, do let me know what's going on there. Is there actually a foreword there from Nicholas Fuentes? What is the situation? Because from what I can see, this is an empty book. So the joke here is that he's written this book about Nicholas Fuentes and talks about how great he is, and actually there's nothing in it. So he's suggesting he isn't great at all. And one of the people who's reviewed the book has actually shown that it's empty, completely empty. He's taken a picture of it. Someone else who bought the book said, "Thank you for your keen insight in capturing the essence of someone who occupies a platform without substance. You've brilliantly highlighted the emptiness behind the words, exposing the hollowness that too often masquerades as authority. It's rare to see such a raw and truthful portrayal, and your writing does it with such clarity and precision. Truly impressive." So again, I think that's just an ironic joke statement, because apparently there isn't any writing in this book, unless he's given it a little bit of an introduction and then decided to just leave it empty. Here's another one from Poland. Somebody saying it's the fastest book they've ever finished, but it does get repetitive at the end. Once again, repetitive because it's empty. It's just empty page after empty page. Now, for those of you who ever watch any content on the Daily Wire, you'll know that Michael Knowles, who's one of the guys on there, he's a Catholic who presents a show on the Daily Wire. He actually did a book as well that was very similar to this. So you could say that maybe Milo kind of stole the idea from him or copied that idea, let's say. That book was called Reasons to Vote for Democrats, a comprehensive guide. And that book was empty and had nothing in it. And apparently it sold really well. So Milo Yiannopoulos has kind of gone down that road. Now, in the past, I've often had this soft spot for Milo Yiannopoulos because I felt that despite some of the crazy things he's said, and on many occasions he's just tried to be controversial just for the sake of being controversial and getting attention. I also saw that despite often joking about being with men and adoring black men and having many black male partners and then later on even marrying a guy, he never tried to pretend that that was okay, that it somehow lined up with his Catholic faith. And when pressed on the issue, he would say, look, this is this one difficult area for him that he struggles to overcome, and at the moment he's unable to overcome it. He knows that isn't in line with the teachings of the church, but at the moment he just can't help it. So I always thought that was good and honest of him to say that. He wasn't trying to pretend that it's fine, or he wasn't saying, well, he lives this way and actually this is one area where he disagrees with the church. He believes that the church should permit homosexual relationships and the church should permit gay marriage, etc. He never said that. He always said that he accepted the church teaching, that it was correct. He even actually spoke quite strongly against gay marriage despite having homosexual relationships at the time. That's why I found it strange that he later on married a guy who he has since split up with. But he was very honest. It's a struggle for him, and it's just one of the areas that he's struggled with. And he did at some point announce himself as ex-gay, and he did also, I think, try and set up something with gay conversion therapy that I don't think he ended up doing in the end. I feel like he's been up and down. He is addicted to fame. He did have a difficult childhood. He was abused, I think, by a priest when he was a child. That could have contributed to his lifestyle later on. I don't think he had a very good relationship with his parents. He liked his grandmother, and I think he took her surname Yiannopoulos after that. He became very well known, he made a lot of money, and I think even today he still kind of craves that fame and likes the attention. But deep down in his heart, he is a Catholic, and I feel that somewhere in there he knows that some of the things he's done, and maybe still does, I don't know, aren't okay. And he's never tried to lead people astray. He's never tried to lead people down the wrong path in this area, like some other people will do. You'll get Catholics who live that kind of lifestyle, and they say they disagree with the church, and it should change in this area, it should modernize and get with the times. He never did that. But let me know your thoughts on Milo Yiannopoulos. And I also wanted to briefly, after talking about Milo, comment on Raymond Arroyo. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. Raymond Arroyo, Raymond Arroyo. I just feel whenever I've seen him, and I don't watch him a whole lot, but whenever I've seen him on EWTN, or particularly more recently on Fox News, he just has this vibe about him where I just think, gay? Like he's very flamboyant, like he's very excited to be in front of the camera.
Isn't everyone?
And I'm not suggesting he is. So I don't want him, in the off chance that he happens to see this video, suing me or anything like that for trying to destroy his name. I'm not suggesting he is. I'm just saying I get those vibes. And let's just say that if it ever came out, no pun intended, that despite being happily married with children, he did have a boyfriend/boyfriends on the side, I wouldn't be surprised. That's all. If that story was ever released, if there was ever any evidence shown of that, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm not saying that that's what's going on. I just get a vibe. I don't know if you've ever gotten that vibe. Maybe that's just how he is and he's totally fine, but that's my feeling on him. Folks, let me know your thoughts on Milo Yiannopoulos if you know who he is, and what do you think about this thing about Raymond Arroyo? You might think it's nasty and I shouldn't be saying that and I shouldn't be speculating, fair enough. Or maybe you've also gotten that vibe. Let me know in the comments section. As usual, thank you very much for watching the video. Have a blessed day.